have been very focused from the beginning to be smart, to think about being safe, and to do everything we can to bring our community together. We are very focused on the health and well-being of the community, and have created an environment as such that all students across all of our programs who would like to be in Cambridge and on campus and attending classes in person are able to do so. With that in mind, we are very focused, though, on the health and well-being of the community, with requiring all people on campus to wear masks, to keep their distance from one another, to think about their health on their own, and washing hands on a regular basis, and to do daily attestations. We, in order to support this, actually have invested in creating our own testing facility within Sloan, where anybody who is on campus on a regular basis, which includes students, faculty, and staff, are tested twice a week. Again, I could talk a lot more about that, but I think that gives you a little bit of a sense of what we're doing. I've talked a little bit about, all programs. So the Sloan Fellows MBA program is part of a portfolio of programs. And you can see here we offer different programs for people ranging from really straight out of undergrad all the way to the very experienced people with somewhere, close to 25 years of experience. Our Sloan Fellows MBA program is on that, on the spectrum, is at that higher end, where our students have on average 14 years of work experience. The majority of our students receive an MBA degree, although you also have the opportunity to receive an SM in management as well. We offer, let me just say one more thing about that, and then I'll go on. So for our programs, including the Sloan Fellows MBA program, we tend to have a core set of classes, and then, some flexibility that my colleague Katie will go into in a lot more detail. But we also know students have some certain interests, and we have developed these 3 certificates and healthcare, sustainability, and analytics to really provide 2 things. One is a roadmap around any one of these disciplines. But what's interesting enough, as you can see here, is these certificates are open up to the entire MIT community and really highlight the cross-disciplinary nature of our programs and of our school. Thanks. So, in a nutshell, the MIT Sloan Fellows MBA program is a 1-year full-time experience where students in a typical year will come to campus in the summer and immerse themselves in the MIT Sloan and the MIT Sloan community. It is rigorous, our curriculum. It is data-driven. We also have a lot of flexibility for you to customize the curriculum to really align with your own personal interests. Our students have access to resources across campus and throughout MIT. And throughout this experience, really beginning, some would argue, with orientation, the community that gets created is really something extremely special and lasts a lifetime. The ideal candidate, as you're sitting here thinking about, well, is this program right for me, is somebody with 10 plus years of post-bachelor's degree experience and really full-time experience, having really had the opportunity to demonstrate leadership and general management skills either in a global setting or really with a global focus. You've pushed your boundaries and you know how to effectively challenge the status quo. You're comfortable with quantitative analysis and data to support the decision making that you do. Your English language skills are such that you're very comfortable in that environment. While it is a very global program, and in any given year we have somewhere between 35 and 40 countries represented, the program itself is, I apologize, that's my dog. The program is delivered in English, and you as an individual who are committing to this program are really committing yourself to a year of learning and self-improvement and self-assessment and evaluation. The profile of our current class, we currently at this time have 103 full-time students in the class. It ranges somewhere between 100 and 110 in any given year. Our students have on average 14 years of work experience, and 33% of our students have an advanced degree. In this current class, 38 countries are represented. 33% of the class this year is US citizens. I have to be honest, that's a little bit higher than we've seen in the past. And with 61% being international, if you look at the combined US and perm res, that's 40% of the class, which is a little bit higher than we've seen in past years. 22% women. Well, unfortunately, that has been pretty much consistent over the last few years. I can tell the women out there, we are always looking to increase that number, and we're looking for, strong, accomplished women to be a part of this program. I'd like to think that that is an encouragement for you, and not a deterrent. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Katie. Thank you very, very much. And one last word in case I don't get another chance to speak is I wish each and every one of you good health to you and your families. I know that globally these are really crazy times, and I hope you're all weathering these very difficult times well. So thank you, and you are in good hands with my colleague, Katie.
Thank you so much, Donna. Welcome, everyone. I will say to you, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I can see in the list of participants that we have folks joining us from all over the world, so thank you. The goal in today's time together is to really dive deep into what the experience of a Sloan Fellow is, and specifically from the academic and curriculum perspective. So we aren't going to spend a lot of time today talking about our application process. We can direct you towards past recorded sessions or offer to answer questions offline. But today we're really diving into what is that 12-month experience, or the 1-year deep dive experience for a Sloan Fellow. And it's important that we start at the top. What is that sort of philosophy of education at MIT Sloan? And it's deeply rooted in the idea of the science of management. How are you using data and analytical tools to drive better decision making in your teams, in your business unit, in your organization or industry? It's grounded in the idea that that you're looking to identify problems and then cultivate solutions that will solve those problems, often the very most challenging problems that you're facing in your work today or in the future. And then one of the most common ways that our students really ground themselves in all of this learning is through a pedagogy we call action learning, or we define often as learning by doing. This pedagogy is going to connect the theory that you learn in the classroom with the practice of it in the real world. That can happen through guest lectures, through simulations that are constantly going to be coming in and out of your classroom experience, but also through real project work with real companies that put forth real problems that they're looking for solutions on. We do have other ways that our students learn in the classroom. Some of the content, which I'll talk about shortly, is a little more dense and it does require lecture. And then we do also use the case study method. About a third of your learning mechanism will be through the case study method while you're a student at Sloan. It ultimately derives into a very facilitated conversation where the faculty are taking that neutral position and you and your classmates are really tackling the problems and the issues and thinking about how you would want to solve them based on the experiences you're bringing into the classroom. As Donna showed us in the class profile, it is an incredibly diverse group of students. Of 103 students, there are just over 100 different companies represented. So everyone is coming in looking at the problems that they're facing and the solutions that they've tried before very differently, and they want to use that as the vehicle to learn and continue to share ideas across the classroom. So really unique environment. The Sloan Fellow specifically is going to ground you in the general management practices, as well as take on the lenses of a global leader that is thinking more innovatively, and certainly in taking on that leadership perspective too, as you go out to not only identify problems, but drive people to solve them. So we don't do this alone. There is an incredible faculty community at MIT Sloan. It is a research institute first. And so those faculty that teach in the Sloan Fellows, which are primarily senior faculty in our core classes are bringing that research constantly into what they're teaching and how they're engaging with our students in the classroom every single day. I'm only going to highlight a few of our faculty here. First, you'll see Duncan Seamister. He is also the faculty director and a professor of marketing at MIT Sloan. The MIT Sloan Fellows Program has an academic faculty director as well as a program faculty or director, and that would be in the assistant deanship of Johanna Hissing DeFabio. Highlighting Erin Kelly, she's doing some really interesting work and research around organizational studies and looking at how we balance sort of the idea of working from home and having different flexible schedules, certainly heightened in the age of COVID. She has a new book out recently sharing the findings of that research. And now they're even looking further into how we are all managing life and work in this more dynamic environment that we're facing today. And then John Sturman, a distinguished faculty at MIT Sloan in the System Dynamics group. He is also the director of our co-faculty director of our sustainability initiative at MIT, and will be a fixture in your classroom, very, very involved in the global policy setting related to climate change from the system dynamics perspective. Something that all of our students in the Sloan Fellows get to experience through one of those action-oriented simulations. So diving a little bit deeper into the program components, we really like to split that experience into two buckets. The first is certainly everything that's going to lead to you earning that MBA, or as we mentioned earlier, if you're interested in pursuing a Master's of Science in Management or Technology, there is an option to do that as well. I will say that a majority of the Sloan Fellows ultimately choose to pursue the MBA, and a handful at the end of the year will have completed those requirements for the Masters of Science instead. At MIT Sloan, all of our MBA programs have a core set of required programs. These were often referred to as the core. There are, I believe, 12 core classes in the Sloan Fellows. Majority of those, as you'll see shortly, happen up front, which will then open up most of your time on campus for elective courses. There is quite a bit of opportunity for diving into that research environment, whether you're choosing to carve out an independent study with a faculty or pursue that thesis, which is a requirement of the Master's of Science degree. There are lots of ways that our students are getting outside of the school as well, whether it's cross-registering across MIT or at our peer school at Harvard just up the road, or they're participating in action learning and oriented student tracks and study tours across the US and really across the globe. The other side of your experience is deeply rooted in that professional and personal development. The Sloan Fellows program, while it is a incredibly intense, immersive year, it is also a very transformational experience. You are going to be surrounded by, on average, 110 of your peers. Not every day that you get to show up into your work environment and have a robust, diverse set of peers to learn from, to bounce ideas off of with, and to really explore this sort of new professional development that you're experiencing. There is also quite a bit of coaching that our students will participate in or receive throughout the program, both from an individual executive coaching perspective, but also within your teams. It is an environment of feedback, and as you go through those 12 months, it's important that you're understanding your blind spots and continuing to strengthen those leadership strengths that brought you to this part of your career. And then career development, I've highlighted here, the Career Development Office at MIT Sloan has an incredible team within the office that is dedicated to our executive level students, including the Sloan Fellow MBA students. A couple of ways that you'll engage with them with that office is right from the start. In the beginning of the program, we have a career core, which is a set of required sessions and experiences with the Career Development Office that align with that summer required core coursework. This is new. It's something that we've had as part of our 2-year MBA for a number of years. And this past summer, our class of 2021 was the first to pilot and experience the core of the Career Development Office being intertwined with their academic experience. And from what I've heard, it's been a fantastic experience, and that alignment has really put the students in a great place to then engage with the Career Development Office and all the other activities that they have going on throughout their academic experience. So how does this really happen? We say that it's a lot that's going to happen in a whole year. So we wanted to try to unpack that and think about it on a semester schedule, or maybe when you think about it like a quarterly experience. So we actually start in June, which is the start of the program, but we like to back it up a little bit, since many of you will be moving here to Boston to experience this year with potentially your families. We want to provide you the opportunity to, in the future, come to campus ahead of time, explore the surrounding areas, get to know the MIT culture, and do some of the sort of pre-work before you'll come to campus. So we have 2 orientations, one in April and then one in June, which will really kick off the program experience. The summer, I've mentioned a few times, is an intensive core course experience. You'll take a majority, it's about 8 out of the 12 core required classes will happen in the summer. This is definitely purposeful by completing majority of those required Sloan Fellow MBA curriculum general management courses. You're freeing up what will be your fall and spring semester, or the second and third semester of your experience, for all of those electives. One thing about the core classes at MIT, I mentioned that all of our MBA students, regardless of the program they're pursuing, the MBA, everyone earns the same MBA from MIT, and you do take many of the same courses. What's different about a Sloan Fellows core class is that it is really an elevated conversation at the management and the leadership level. We're looking to make sure that constantly in that discussion in the classroom with the faculty and your peers around you, you are having that experience and that more elevated leadership conversation. You can see here, I added that career core that we've introduced to the summer, and you'll also begin that leadership journey through the 360 leadership assessment and that executive coaching. There's also quite a bit of team building and community building that will take place. It is not all about the academic experience. You should plan to dedicate some of that time for building community with your new peer group, as well as your family if they travel with you. One thing about the summer is it is very intense. You'll take 3 to 4 classes at the first half of the summer. You'll wrap those courses up, and then you'll have a second half of the semester where you'll have 3 to 4 new courses that you take. The schedule in the summer is Monday, Wednesday, Friday is the academic experience. It is an all-day experience, about 8:30 to 4 o'clock. Tuesdays and Thursdays are not completely free. They are reserved for this career core experience, executive coaching, homework, teamwork, and preparing for the next day's classes, reading, and just being ready to sort of show up and be participatory in the classroom experience. But it is a full-time experience. It is a full-time sort of on a weekly basis experience throughout the summer. Then we head into the fall, and this is really where you'll integrate with the rest of the MIT Sloan community. You'll have a blend of core and elective classes, depending on the faculty teaching schedule. You may have 1 or 2 of your core classes still in the fall semester, but a majority of your time is going to be diving into those elective courses. Some of you may choose to participate in the action learning elective labs. These are those courses I mentioned earlier where you'll work with a real company on a real problem. And we hope that that soon there'll be opportunities for students to get out and really visit and spend some time on site with those companies. In the fall, a unique experience of the Sloan Fellows is one of 2 leadership model, or optional modules. The fall module is a lens on leadership, where the students will work closely with the program office to organize a 3 to 4 day trip to New York City, where you'll be visiting companies, having closed door conversations with senior leadership about the future of their organizations, their industries, and their leadership journey. Really unique experience to sort of put phones away and have that senior manager, usually an alumni of the program, sharing where they had their missteps and where they triumphed and where they grew, and what that experience was like for them as they reach the point in their career that they're at now. In January at MIT, it is a period of time we called IAP, or Independent Activities Period. It is historically a pretty long break, somewhere between 5 and 6 weeks, that you can choose how you want to spend that time. As a Sloan Fellow student, you don't have any requirements during that January IAP timeframe. Some of our students will choose to maybe travel, visit other parts of the US, maybe go home if that's of interest to you, or they'll stay around campus. They will maybe do independent study. They'll participate in the other elective offerings that are happening around campus, which are MIT-wide and range from everything from business plan writing to Texas Hold'em poker to chocolate making, and anything else you can think of in between. There is also a unique opportunity in January that is only available to our executive level students. So that would be our Sloan Fellows and our executive MBA students. These are called executive electives. They are 2-day deep dive electives, either into a new subject or an advanced level of something that you've already taken. So for example, advanced system dynamics, or the analytics edge, which is an advanced course of our data modeling analytics course that is a required course in your core. This is something that is an option to you not only as a current student in the Sloan Fellows program, but also as an alumni. Every January, you will be invited back as a Sloan Fellow alumni to participate in these ongoing executive electives. The leadership of the school really recognizes that if at this point in your career, you're choosing to come back to continue learning, to study, to grow, and have this experience, that you are a lifelong learner. And we wanted to be able to provide you with those opportunities to continue being that lifelong learner. Then we wrap up the final semester, the spring semester here at MIT, again with a blend of core and electives. By this point in your academic experience, I would say for most of our Sloan Fellows, they're at a point where about 75% of their courses are elective, but it really depends on how many electives that you choose to take. There's a minimum to graduate with a master's degree from MIT, but also a maximum that you can top out at. I never recommend that you look at the target being the maximum because there's so much else going on at Sloan, but you will spend a majority of your coursework dedicated towards elective courses. Again, you'll have lots of frequent interactions through guest speaker sessions and different events that the program office and the Sloan School will create for you to interact with senior leaders and executives to really understand that path and that journey that they took. I mentioned the Leadership Lens module in New York in the fall. In the spring, our students organize a Global Perspectives module to Washington, D.C. And then in that module, they will spend time visiting policy leaders, government leaders from around the world, and in the past few years have had the opportunity for small group dinners with ambassadors and different leadership from embassies from around the world. So really making sure that we're getting sort of that global experience and understanding that the decisions that are made really have an impact across industry and across country borders, no matter where we are in the world. And then we graduate. It is a very, very quick year long experience. But certainly at this point in most of your careers, really extracting yourself for more than a year from your career path may not be ideal or realistic. Being out for a year, really re-energizing, gaining all these new tools and frameworks is going to give you that chance to really pop back into that career path and be ready to hit the ground running. You're not too far removed from the industry or the company if you're choosing to return to your organization. That's a lot of information. I talked a lot, I had a lot of buzzwords, right? Core and elective. One of the ways we think about the curriculum at MIT Sloan, especially for an executive student, is that there are these foundation courses, right? There's the business essentials. These are representative in most of your companies by the vice president of marketing operations. And what you're hopefully coming to Sloan to learn is how do you drive better decision-making in those business units or those business essentials using more analytical tools and frameworks such as applied economics, system dynamics, which in the Sloan Fellows is a core class. And if you're not familiar with system dynamics, it is a tool that was invented at MIT by Jay Forrester now many decades ago, and very, very popular way to really examine and identify problems within your organization. I mentioned electives. I highlighted that you're, as a Sloan Fellow, you are a full-time graduate student at MIT, which means that you can cross-register across the institute as long as you meet the prerequisites for those courses. And there's a seat for you. You are highly encouraged to get outside of Sloan and engage in the rest of the MIT community. It's not too far away. It's about a 10-minute walk across campus, and vice versa. Those students will come into our Sloan rooms also. We also have a relationship with the Harvard professional schools, such as Harvard Business School and the Kennedy School for Government, and many students will choose to cross-register. The challenge there is traffic and timing. And so just making sure that those courses outside of Sloan meet or fit into your schedule of electives within Sloan so that you can get from one place to the other in the right amount of time. Donna talked a little bit up front about the certificates. It can be quite overwhelming when you show up at Sloan to really decide how you want to carve out your experience. It is a highly flexible experience that is very purposeful, that you know what's next for you, and you know what areas you want to fill in and what other strengths you want to keep diving into. Last year, as a way to help put a little more structure around some of this academic experience for our students, our Sloan Fellows piloted the 2 of the 3 tracks that our MBA students participate in. These are going to add a lot more structure to your academic experience. They are in, there is a track in finance and a track in entrepreneurship and innovation. What it means is in that fall and spring semester, you will have to check a number of boxes by completing specific electives in the field of finance or related to entrepreneurship and innovation. And they also have action learning components as well as some more professional development pieces that you also need to meet the criteria for as you go through the 12-month experience. Those are binding. For the most part, the ask is that if you pursue the finance or entrepreneurship and innovation track as a Sloan Fellow, that you do remain on the track for the entirety of the 2 semesters of electives. Somewhere in between the more structured track and all the flexibility in the world is the certificates, which Donna mentioned at the top of our webinar. These are in healthcare, sustainability, and data analytics. These are going to add a little more flexibility, but also ask you to check some boxes. These are not things that show up on your transcripts. They do not show up on your degree. They are really a roadmap and a great way to understand which coursework that the faculty and the leadership and our industry partners think are most important for you to have an impact in the future in that industry or that function after you graduate. And then extracurriculars. We've talked a lot about the academic experience. I understand we're here to unpack the curriculum, but there is so much learning that happens outside of the traditional classroom. When I was on the program side, office side, I recommended to students that they think about spending upwards of 50% of their time engaging in student activities, taking leadership roles in clubs and initiatives, and our student-led conferences. There are about 100 student-led clubs at MIT Sloan alone. Half of them are very industry specific, such as the finance club, the consulting club, but the other half of the clubs are more personal interests, professional development, everything from running club to the Happy Belly Club, which is my favorite to learn about. But again, you're highly encouraged to really think about how you want to spend your time. You're not going to make these decisions alone in a silo. There's lots of folks at the school, from your academic and program advisors in the program office to faculty and career development advisors that will be there to guide you and provide feedback and direction as you're sort of making that plan for yourself. What's unique is as you go through this exploratory process, know that everyone has a different path when they come to MIT Sloan and that they experience while they're at MIT Sloan. Just a quick sampling of popular electives. There are hundreds of them, so this is just a smattering of them. I highlighted a couple that I think are particularly interesting. In the first column, strategic leadership communication, which is a much more senior leadership oriented conversation, and then choice points. These are both Sloan Fellow only electives, so you won't have anyone else in these classes from the other degree programs at MIT Sloan. Traditionally, the significant others, as you see here, SO, significant other, have been able to register for this choice points elective, which is a leadership elective as well. And then I highlighted power negotiation. This is a very popular elective at MIT Sloan, and the Sloan Fellows in the past couple of Januaries have had a version of this course, which is a 3-day session that is specific to Sloan Fellows. If that doesn't meet your schedule, then you can certainly register for the semester-long power negotiations course. I highly recommend it. The faculty who teach in that course are incredible. But again, this is just a smattering of them. There are many, many, many electives to choose from. And I'm going to take a breath and turn to Anne and see what questions we have coming in from our audience.
Yes, Katie, you mentioned quant comfortable. What kind of skills or coursework do we need ahead of time or to prepare before we start our intensive summer?
That's a great question. So it is quant. We are looking for students to be comfortable with the sort of quantitative foundations. We think about that as algebra, calculus, statistics, and probability. It by no means do you need to be a mathematician. We have incredible students that come into Sloan and are successful in our classroom that have liberal arts backgrounds. There are a number of ways that we can prepare you in advance of the June start date to be ready for that academic quantitative rigor. All of the Sloan Fellows that are admitted to the program are required to complete a math prep module. It is completely self-paced and provided to you by the admissions and program office. We have a module that is set up to really put you back on the foundations of those 4 areas: statistics, probability, algebra, and calculus. And this will really level the playing field, right? If it's been a while since you've been in the classroom, which is not uncommon for an executive level student, seeing as that our average years of experience is 14 years, it's just a good refresher to go back and sort of refamiliarize yourself with that vocabulary and that language. If you've never taken any of these courses, or you took maybe one of these courses back in university, we may recommend that in the time between you're admitted and when you show up on campus in June, that you take a lengthier course. And I would usually recommend a stats course, a statistics course, not anything advanced, just a a level 1 or statistics 1 course, online is great, but that will really put you in a good place for that summer core curriculum in the econ course, our data models and decisions course. We are, if not the only school, maybe one of the only schools that has a data analytics course or a data science course in our MBA course that the Sloan Fellows also take. And that will really build a great foundation for you when you get into your finance courses as well. But when we say quant comfy, I also think that you don't need to be, like I said, a mathematician, but the little hairs on the back of your neck shouldn't stand up when I say algebra or calculus. You should be excited about learning those new tools and have an interest, a strong interest in wanting to really drive decision-making from a data perspective.
Great. We do have a couple questions about years of work experience in order to apply to the program. If someone has a PhD program or another master's degree, does that count towards work experience? And is it really 10 years? Maybe you can highlight that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good question. So we do ask for a minimum of 10 years of post undergraduate work experience. That would be your bachelor's degree. In a few occasions every year, we do have students that start with 8 or 9 years of work experience. They're often rising in their career at a faster rate than their peer group. Their peer group at work has 15, 16 years of work experience. What is a key differentiator in the Sloan Fellow profile from our 2-year full-time MBA is that the Sloan Fellows do have general management exposure, if not experience, when it comes to decision-making and driving and executing for results. And they do have people management experience, and many of them are managing managers, right? Or managing teams of people. That is a key differentiator. So we do review applications from candidates that have that 8 or 9 years, but we are going to be looking very closely for that general management experience. If you have a master's degree, which over 40% of our Sloan Fellows come into the Sloan Fellows with a previous secondary graduate degree, it depends on what you did while you were in that degree program. Did you take a break already from your career path? And it becomes a little bit of a puzzle, and we'll be looking for you to help us understand that, both in the information we ask you to fill out, but also in your resume.
Great. We have a question about the 360-degree assessments. Is that only in the summer, or is it through the entire year?
That is something that happens before you actually come in the summer. I mentioned that we have an April orientation, and that really kicks off the 360 leadership assessment. You'll ask a number of your advisors and your peers and your managers to complete that 360 leadership assessment between April and June. That way, when you arrive at MIT to start your program, usually around June 1st, you are going to walk into that experience with a lot of data that you can then use to understand how you should spend your time while you're an MIT Sloan student. Your executive coach will help you read and understand what that data says, but it is incredibly powerful to start a 1-year MBA program with all of that information in your hand. The executive coaching, you have 3 individual executive coaching sessions that are provided by the program office and 1 team coaching session. So in the summer, you're in a core team or a learning team of 5 or 6 of your peer groups. You'll do all your homework together, all your assignments, and there will be 1 coaching session with that executive coach for that team as well. If you're interested in adding and continuing on to that relationship with the executive coach, you can certainly do that, but it will be an out-of-pocket expense beyond those 3 coaching sessions.
Katie, we talk a lot about how this program is not only for the students, but also for potential partners and families. Can you just touch upon how partners or families may be involved with the curriculum, the program, and outside of the program and social activities?
Yeah, definitely. If you have a partner, a significant other, which for us means husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, we highly encourage you to engage them in this process, in this experience from the start. Hopefully that means that they're able to come and spend that year with you here at MIT, MIT and living in the Cambridge area. Many of our students will bring their families with them. They'll enroll their children in local schools and really give them that, provide them with that experience that they're having at MIT Sloan in the greater Boston area. As a significant other, there are a lot of different opportunities for you to engage in, from being active on campus through clubs. There is a really, really strong significant others club at MIT Sloan, as well as a family and partners club at MIT. Within the Sloan Fellows program, the partner network is also very robust. There's usually, out of 110 students, we usually have 65 to 75 partners that travel with their student and live and spend this time for the year, and probably 60 to 70, if not more, children that come to be a part of this. So at the Sloan Fellows level, you'll have an instant community. The program office will provide a lot of activities for families, and also activities that are more for adults, and they'll be very clear that this is a family-friendly event versus an adult-only event. At the Sloan School sort of level, you'll have the Significant Others Club. You'll be able to participate in other activities around campus, and then again at the MIT level. The one thing that is not an option or not a possibility is for significant others to audit or be a listener status in academic courses. At MIT Sloan, we often talk about it just being a really open campus, that there's no locks on our doors, but one of the policies is that those classrooms are reserved for matriculated students, which is why the Sloan Fellows Program Office has created an opportunity through the Choice Points Leadership Elective for partners to participate in. There's a lot of other ways that I think our students, our partners and families will make sure that they're getting that intellectual experience through guest lectures. I know we have had partners in the past that find themselves being panelists or very active in conferences that are traditionally student run. So all of that exists for partners.
Great. And I have a two-part question. You know, given the rigor of this course and this curriculum that you mentioned, how realistic or how often can students really immerse themselves in extracurriculars within Sloan and then with the greater MIT as an institution? And the second part is, do you have a percentage of students who are actually enrolled in a certificate or a track?
Okay, so the first question, I think it's really up to you as the student. I think the hardest, most challenging piece of being an MIT Sloan student or an MIT graduate student is that there is so much to do that you will have to decide pretty early on where you're going to spend your time. And so some students will decide that they're going to take advantage of all the coursework, which will leave less time for extracurriculars. And other students will decide to take fewer electives and spend more of their free time or their outside classroom time engaging in those clubs, conferences, and initiatives. But it's really a mixed bag of how the students choose to do that. I don't particularly like this phrase, but there is a real sense of sort of the fear of missing out, and one of the best pieces of advice I've heard an alumni say in a recent panel was coming in with clear, a set of clear goals of things you want to accomplish, and then revisit those goals. Because I promise you, when you come to MIT, you are going to be in a candy store, and there is so much to learn about, and most of it you may have never had access to. One of my favorite things to hear on the first day of school for our students is they turn to their neighbor sitting next to them and they say, "That's a job? I don't even know how you would get that job." And next thing you know, they're off and running in a new tangent, exploring something that they never even knew was a possibility for them. So it's good to know, to start to think about and start setting some goals of how you want to spend your time at the school, but put some flexibility around them so that you can explore those curiosities. In terms of this, the tracks and the certificates, the tracks are really new, and I would even say that for Sloan Fellows, they're new, not for our MBA students, certainly. For the Sloan Fellows, last year was the first year that our students really had the opportunity to participate in them, so it's still very much a pilot. Something we love to do around MIT is experiment with new course of action. So last year, there were only a handful of Sloan Fellows in the class of 2020 that participated in a track. Certificates are much, much more popular. I don't have any specific numbers. I would hedge a guess that about 30% of the class will complete a certificate, but I don't have any specific numbers, but they're very, very popular with Sloan Fellows.
I think finally, Katie, we have a lot of questions. I know Donna spoke about COVID, but about the process of potentially deferring given COVID, or the type of classroom experience for future applicants. Is it going to be fully online ever, or what's kind of the status?
It's a good question, and I understand why that is top of mind for folks. I just saw Donna come back on video, so I'm gonna punt that question to Donna.
Sure. No, thank you so much. The short answer is we just don't know. We've already, and I think that's probably the most honest answer we can give. Good or bad, we now have quite a bit of experience with, I think, doing the best we can in a time of incredible uncertainty. As we've already in earnest begun to plan for the spring, we see the spring being pretty similar to what this fall has been, which really is, we give students the opportunity to come to campus if they want. We are very tightly conforming to the guidelines and requirements of the state of Massachusetts, as well as the city of Cambridge and MIT, which means in any given classroom, we have no more than 22 students. It's a 25-person limit, but with faculty and a teaching assistant and an AV assistant, it's 22 students with proper social distancing. We have people wearing masks at all times. And so as a result of that, we've had to be, I would say, a bit creative. We've been challenged really in terms of how to accommodate, a class of, as you all might be, 110. And so there's some compromising, I think, that's taking place on all fronts. Our faculty have gotten very used to being able to deliver their materials both online and in person. And I think, the best thing, I think one of the things that we have learned is really, while advanced planning is certainly something that people appreciate so that they can make their own plans, we also need to maintain a certain level of flexibility as things change, either for the better or sometimes for the worse, that we can make adjustments. This year I'm very, I think, liberal and sensitive with our deferral policy, and I actually don't really see us really changing that mindset moving forward.
Thank you.
Excellent. I think that's the majority of questions. I think along that lines, Katie and Donna, if while you're in the program, if a personal situation arises and you need to leave campus for personal matters, is there a policy? Can you take exams online? Is there any kind of information you could provide on that situation?
Sure, certainly. I think MIT is an incredibly resourceful place, and that the administration, the faculty, the staff are incredibly supportive in this journey. And life happens, especially, at a stage in your career where you're dealing with lots of different things, right? And in your personal lives, and they will work with that student individually to make sure that you can manage what you need to on the outside, but that you're still, accomplishing the components of the program. If a student needed to take a leave from the program, there is a policy in place for a leave of absence. That is something that's managed by the program office. You would work very closely with your advisor, as well as the assistant dean of the program, to determine what the next steps are for you. But please know that it is incredibly supportive. You are not alone kind of here. I always describe it as like a series of like hammocks. It's just these safety nets, right? there's always going to be someone there for you to lean on as a resource. And certainly if there was something happening outside of your Sloan experience that you needed guidance and help with.
I think those are the majority of the questions. I see we only have a couple minutes left for any wrap up.
I know I said we weren't going to talk about the application, but I'm just going to highlight, we did just have our round 1 deadline. And so we are looking down, I can't believe this, into 2021 at our round 2 deadline and then round 3. You can see all the components of our application here. They are also detailed on our website. And a couple of weeks ago, my colleagues on our team also had a fantastic webinar really diving deep into all the different elements of the application. So we recommend heading to the Sloan Fellows YouTube page and finding that webinar. If you have any questions at all as you're going through this process, we want to be as transparent as possible. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are happy to engage and help you, be able to get the questions that you need in order to make the right decision for you. But otherwise, thank you all for joining us. As Donna said at the top, we wish you continued good health to you and your family and friends. And we hope that someday soon we can see you here at MIT Sloan in the future. Thank you so much for being online with us. Have a great weekend, everyone.